Hey guys, finally back on the WD45 project a little bit. I've got the block cleaned, or it doesn't look that great, but it's been cleaned. Got it cleaned, got the sleeves back in. I've actually got it sitting right now with a little bit of coolant in the water jackets just to try to make sure that I didn't cut an O-ring putting the liners back in. But anyway, this is what I've got going on. I've got a slight issue. It's a lot brighter over here. That I found when I pulled the cam and lifters out. Actually, this one is easier to see. Okay, see if I can get this to show up. Okay, so focus. No, I probably won't be able to get it. Okay, on this lifter, there is you can kind of see it right there, that spot right in the middle. This lifter has stopped rotating, and that is a problem on flat tappet camshafts. The lifters have to spin in order to reduce wear on the lifter and cam. So took it down and talked to my dad. There were two lifters in this that had stopped spinning. I showed it to Dad, and he said, he looked at the cam doesn't look bad. He said, resurface it, put it in your lathe and resurface that end. I said, huh? I've never heard of doing that. He said, oh yeah, that was a real common thing to do back in the day. I'm like, okay. Well, this will be interesting. So this is my basic setup here. I bought a different wheel to go on the tool post grinder. This is it's not a diamond wheel, it is a CBN wheel, or cubic boron nitride. It is a synthetic form of diamond that's normally used for grinding hardened steel. I've got the lifter set up in my little collet chuck, so they run fairly true. I opened up a whole can of worms starting this project because normally lifters on a more modern flat tappet camshaft, the lifter has a slight crown on it instead of being truly flat, and the lobes on the cam are tapered, and that's part of what produces the rotation. But I did a bunch of reading and found that early engines typically had flat lobes, or they're not tapered lobes, and the bottom of the lifters were flat, and how they made them rotate was they just offset the lifter from the lobe on the cam. Since this engine was designed, the original of this engine was designed in the 30s for the WC, and the cam has no measurable taper on it. I'm pretty sure that's how this one is done. So I did actually find other engines that were ground that way. The one that surprised me the most actually was the Buick Nailhead V8 engines were made that way, all the way up into the 1950s. So anyway, we're going to give this a try and see what happens, because I have never done this and I have no idea what I'm doing. Well, I hate to admit how long it's been since I've actually gotten anything accomplished on this. I got all the lifters resurfaced, and then we've been out of town and been busy, so it's just kind of sat here. So, but anyway, the wife and the kids are out of town for a few days to go visit grandparents, so we're going to see if we can get some progress made putting this sucker back together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do right now, I'm going to tap all my holes, or my holes for my main bolts, and then I'm going to set the bearings in. I'm going to plastic gauge my bearings and just see what my clearance is before I put the rear main seal in or anything. And if clearance looks good, we'll proceed from there. So. And yes, I'm using a wrench because my tap handle here at home is not big enough for a 5/8 tap. Okay, I've got the bearings in dry right now, so I'm going to lay a piece of plastic gauge on my 3 main journals, and we'll see what we've got. Guys, I'm a little bit disgusted with myself at the moment as far as my parts inspection. This is the front main bearing, thrust bearing. That's not good. Dang it. Well, it's been about 3 days. I got some new bearings, and now we can try again. Okay, so one thing to watch for on these engines, I don't know if you can see that from here or not. These engines do use shims on the main caps. It is possible to have the block and the caps machined so that you don't need the shims anymore, but the shims work, so I'm going to run them the way it was. There should be, if everything is normal, the shim should be 0.010 of an inch thick. I think from the factory they actually had 4, or was a stack of 4 shims, so you could adjust it, but these are one piece, so. And you want to make sure when you set your shims in that your shims are not in where the bearings will need to go. So, and then I cleaned my bolts. I'm going to put just a little bit of motor oil on the threads. And then run bolts in. I'm not gonna torque these until I've got all 3 of them on, and I'll torque them all together. Okay, so the book calls for 85 foot-pounds on these torque on these bolts. I'm going to pull them all down to 50 foot-pounds first, start in the middle, then do each end, and then once I've got them all torqued to 50, then I'll readjust my wrench and go to 85. Then we'll take them back off and we'll check our clearance. Okay, so we've got our caps back off. Try to stand here where I'm not casting or right in the glare, but say that one's right about 3/1000. This one I would say is also about 3/1000, and the front one I think might be slightly wider than, or slightly looser than 3, but I can live with it. Okay, so the crank is finally in. I had a little trouble with the rear main seal. Hopefully it actually seals. That makes me nervous right now, but I'm gonna roll with it. So now I've got the lifters in. I'm gonna lube up the cam good and set the cam in, and then I am going to be done for now because it's late and I need to go to bed. And with a flat tappet cam and assembly lube, the more the merrier. Generally with a flat tappet cam, you're better off to use a thicker assembly lube rather than like a liquid, just so that it stays put. Because I've had the liquid stuff kind of run off after a while. And once you get it halfway in, it'll kind of support the rest of the cam, so you can lube up the rest of it. Also, as we're putting this together, we're going to line up our timing marks. I have to find my timing marks first. Need a flashlight. There it is. Cat, what are you doing in here? Okay, so our timing marks are lined up. Cam is in. Lifters are in. I'm done for the night. So I hope to be a lot farther along than this, but that's where we got. Hey, I'm going to add just a little bit more onto this video. I've kind of decided to stop where I'm at because of I'm not happy with how this rear main seal is. The gasket set that I bought was from Reliance. It had both sizes of felt for the rear crank seal, and but one thing I noticed, even with the smaller one, the felt was a lot thicker and a lot wider than the original one, and one, it was very hard to get into the get into the groove in the cap and the seal housing, but it also stuck out a lot farther. And I did watch the video that's on YouTube. If I can figure out how, I'll put a link to it in the description, that Don Bradley did years ago on how to seal up the bottom end of these engines. And he said not to cut the excess off of that seal where it stuck out. But I had a huge amount sticking out on both sides. And even after cutting it off, when I first put the rear cap on, I couldn't even turn the crank. The seal was so tight on the crankshaft. So I goofed around with it and got it to where it would turn, but I'm still not happy with it. I did some more research online and found what should be the correct felt rear seal for this, so I've got it on order. So I'm waiting to go any farther on this until I get that, because I want to make sure everything's right, and I don't want to have to pull this thing back out again once it goes back in the tractor. So anyway, that's where we're at. Sorry there's not a lot of progress to show on this. I'm more frustrated about that than anybody, but that's where we're at. So thank you again for watching, and hope you all have a good one.